This week on New to You, Lost and Forgotten. Part 1, Forgotten Silver. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of New to You Show. We're starting a new topic off, Lost and Forgotten. We'll let everybody kind of get into their things. I'm up on deck first, and who am I?
John Holt.
John Holt, all right. One of your hosts. And who is that saying my name? Keith Vincent.
Keith Vincent.
And who's that sitting next to him?
Oh, I forgot my name.
Julian Cage.
Hey, yeah, that's it.
We're going to have Keith announce everybody now.
And who's our guest this week?
Returning guest.
That's true.
We had almost lost and forgotten her.
Uh-oh. No, unforgettable. Kristen Sherman, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
So what I do forget is how long ago we had you on, because that all blurs together for me.
I know it was musicals.
Forget to.
But see, I don't know if it was last season or if it was just earlier in this season.
I think
It was last season.
All right, there we go. That shows you that we do a lot of records. We have a lot of episodes. And so you should go back and listen. You know what? I bet episode
Don't
1 of the New
forget.
to You show
Go back.
is going to be new to you, even if you've listened to it before, because it probably would be new to me. All right. So New to You Show, speaking of that, is a podcast where we review the earlier episodes of our own podcast. It's pretty difficult. The first few
It's
episodes
like a clip show.
are just kind of us talking about how we're going to review this episode later.
And then we get stuck in an elevator and have to swap stories. And then it goes back in time.
Exactly. And the devil is in the elevator. Twist.
Whoa.
The whole thing is in the unbreakable world. Twist. Yeah, and it's modern day. Twist.
But wait. So was that movie really set in the Unbreakable cinematic universe?
No, but
Okay.
that's a twist for another M. Night Shyamalan
Okay.
movie that I won't spoil.
No, go
What?
ahead, spoil it for me.
Yeah, you can spoil it because we're not going to see it.
How can you tell?
I've
Is
probably already seen it.
Does
Split.
Bruce-
Split.
Split.
really?
Yeah, I've
Does
seen it.
Bruce Willis come
Ah.
out and be like, "I'm gonna save the day"?
No, he
No.
looks
No,
down. He
just-
looks down in a puddle, and Bruce Willis is face down in it, and you're like, his weakness was water. Oh yeah, that was the other twist for
The
Bruce.
sen- the Sentinel. The Sentinel was down in the water.
Yeah, face down in his like rain jacket or whatever his costume was.
Mr. Glass finally got his way.
Yeah. He was shattered when he saw it. All right. So we actually do awesome, insightful reviews of media, as you can see
And
by
some of them aren't even
by our
real.
banter about
We're so good at it. We make up stuff
to
to review.
So, we're going to get into Lost and Forgotten with my pick. Why don't we roll right into it?
Do it.
All right.
I'm in a small town called Pukekohe Bay in New Zealand. Behind me is a lady called Hannah Mackenzie. About a year ago, I had a call from my mother. She said I should drop in on Auntie Hannah sometime because she was wondering if I'd be interested in a lot of old films that she had stored in a shed at the bottom of her garden.
Cool. So my pick is the 1995 documentary by Peter Jackson. This was made between Heavenly Creatures and Frighteners. It was also part of a lot of his like earlier movies were like Dead Alive and Meet the Feebles and Bad Taste and Heavenly Creatures were made using the New Zealand Film Fund, which helps artists get out there and get made. And this movie was as well. And this movie was actually slated, it's a 55-minute documentary. It was made to go on TV around the same time as like, what are they called? Like miniseries and plays would go. So like Upstairs, Downstairs and whatever Angela Lansbury's doing today.
So like a masterpiece theater type of thing.
So it was, put in an intellectual slot and taken as real. In fact, they worked with a journalist who like published a story about it before the thing even went to air. And it's about this character. The documentary is called Forgotten Silver. I think I said that, but
Nope.
no.
He forgot to.
I forgot to. But it starts off with, it's a very straight, very dry humor. Everything is delivered very straight. And it starts off with Jackson kind of telling his story of how he discovered this and like walking through the backyard of a New Zealand household to this shed and kind of pointing out where he found this steamer trunk full of footage or whatever, of films.
In his neighbor's
Right.
garage.
And from there it unravels that he got this stuff, got it transferred and got a look at all of it, and soon realized that this was a treasure trove that they had found, the lost art of, I think the guy's name is Charlie Mackenzie.
It's definitely Mackenzie, but I forget his first
forget
name.
his first name. I think it was Charlie, but anyhow, Mackenzie. So this guy Mackenzie is like it's all very like nationalistic, like national hero tropes abound as
Of New Zealand.
they build up this New Zealand like forgotten and lost hero. And he had become like infatuated with film and like and early film, like he's a turn of the century guy, and he's seeing these things as a kid and is like, oh, I'm really into this. He was working at a bike shop with his dad, and he builds his own camera using a bike. Like, in fact, accidentally creates the first tracking shot because he built his camera on the front of the bike, and the bike powers the crank of the camera, and they show footage from that test. And then he decides to like use steam power to power his camera, and you see like this pulley system, and it's hooked up to like a train engine, like an old-fashioned like steam engine. And then eventually they kind of show that one of his fellow inventors had made an aircraft, and there was some like dispute about when this guy's aircraft had gone off and all this stuff, and they show footage of this plane, this like early paper and Watt and Dobble aircraft flying at camera and veering off because it's about to hit the camera and crashing into the bushes. So it didn't fly as long as it should have to really have like gotten national attention or critical acclaim. And they enhance the footage, and you see in the back pocket of one of the people helping the engineer that it's 1903. So it's like 2 years earlier, maybe even like a few months earlier than the Wright brothers.
It's just a few months earlier.
Right.
And yeah, I think that digital enhancement of the footage is the first very on the nose, like, this isn't for real. Like,
I don't know. The steam engine thing kind of gets me. I mean, that was like...
That's true. I mean, everything's a little over the top, but that's the one that's like, oh, come on. Like,
Yeah. So it continues on that he like is into film, starts making film. He actually, like, before any of the basically they're giving him all these benchmarks that come before, like the first talkie, he creates that with synchronized sound. But unfortunately, the feature he shot that was the first talkie was all in Chinese, and he hadn't invented subtitles.
Yeah, he always is ahead of the curve, but then shoots himself in the foot somehow.
An inevitable like flop. And then then he's making his own like film stock with eggs, and his dad like is like, no, you got to be a farmer. And
no, it's because he steals he wants
all
to make
these
a
eggs.
feature, so he steals like
2,000 eggs.
Yeah.
So then he makes his own color film stock at a certain point, and
using rare berries
from
some island,
Barbados,
some tropical island,
and goes out there and does a film shot test. And it's amazing color, but these topless women are in it.
Just keep walking into the shot.
And so he goes to like present this is my marvel, but it's cast down as lewd and indecent, and the men of the jury deliberate for like 37 hours and ask for repeat watches of this thing so that they can like make sure that their fury is like well recognized. So because of the lewdness, he's unable to get that off the ground.
Can't publish it.
And so eventually he goes into World War I think.
Well, before World War I,
Salome, is that when he starts filming Salome?
Yeah, he starts filming Salome. He falls in love with the lead actress, but meanwhile she was falling in love with his brother on screen.
And so him and his brother go off to World War I. He's like a war photographer, basically, like one of the first like New Zealand war photographers.
Right, because he's flat-footed, so he was actually not allowed to fight, and so he becomes a photographer.
Right. So his brother unfortunately dies, and so he goes home and is really depressed because him and his brother were kind of a duo. Even though they had this love triangle, he was still, he liked his brother. He wanted to work with him more and all that. So after kind of this depression, he comes back and he's like, I'm going to finish Salome, but before I do that, he goes off into the woods of New Zealand and by hand builds an entire biblical city, and then hires teams of extras and brings them all in to shoot his new Salome, like full-fledged, like what's the dude who did Birth of a Nation, like
W.D. Griffith.
Yeah, like a D. Griffith's like epic scale thing. Of course, years before Griffith would put his on film, etc. So they're just like going through all this stuff, and they cut away to like Sam Neill and Harvey Weinstein and Leonard Maltin and Peter Jackson and
Harvey Weinstein.
Oh yeah, Weinstein and Coates, who's another, he's actually like a New Zealand documentary director, and then also archival footage people. One of the weirdest dudes he has a tie made of wood.
Yes.
Just like a little like weird detail, just like this stiff wooden
great.
tie.
Yeah, and there's also like, is she like some relation to him, the old lady at the beginning, like towards the beginning?
She's his second wife.
Oh, gotcha.
Or whatever, his later wife.
Gotcha.
Because that's the other thing they explain is that he finishes this epic, but there's a little bit of a back and forth. He runs out of money, so then he starts like filming this what is it, like poison-addled guy doing slapstick, like candid camera stuff. And to fund his film, and so kind of keeps getting money through that. But every time he goes to film, there's like rain days, or it's super hot, or like there's all these things that just ruin his ability to actually get anything in the can. And so he finally goes and gets backers, like he gets Russian backers, and they're like, oh no, you can't have any biblical like basically they want to make it like communist propaganda. And then what is it? Then like he gets in bed with like another group as well who wants to get it made, and so he's like kind of goes on the run from them. Finally, he comes back with all this undue pressure, all these people putting pressures on him. He's making the film as he wants to make it, but the pressure of making the film, his like now pregnant wife, he's married and like having a child
Family.
with the actress who had once loved his brother. And as they're filming the last of the scenes, like she goes into premature labor and like bleeds out. And so again, this is like the dark, dry humor that they kind of get in this thing, where
This is the part of behind the music where it's like the low part,
Right.
the low part.
like do-do-do,
Yeah.
do-do-do.
Everybody hurts
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
So, he's again crushed, and so it's sort of he's finished his masterpiece, but at what cost? So he puts it all away and just disappears. And the last thing you see of him is him shooting footage in World War II, trying to like save somebody and getting shot up. And then he meets his new wife, who they've been interviewing throughout the thing, and sort of settles down and puts it all behind him. And so that's Forgotten Silver. And they actually then have a screening for this epic. They have someone come and put it together and try to be true to his vision, and that's it. But the whole thing, like people were really like people in real life, Kiwis watching this on TV were like, wow, this is amazing. They can't believe that like this national treasure was missing for so long. And it got such like a fervor that the directors Coates and Jackson had to come out and be like, no, guys, this is all like
This
like
been
this
a goof.
is all a goof. Like
The
this
whole
is Spinal Tap, and because they did a really good job. It was all the footage is like, again, there's little hints of things that are over the top. Like there's jokes like Harvey Weinstein.
No. There aren't hints. It's outright like
because
it's outright.
He's like, yeah. I mean, we wanted to be true to his vision. I mean, he'd be pretty mad about the hour that I cut out of his film, because like he's known as a distributor who removes footage from people's cuts and stuff like that.
But the thing is like, for you to believe it, you kind of would have to want to believe it. Do you know what I mean? To believe half the stuff, which I think is the funnier part.
I think that's though like the power of the medium, if you will.
Yeah.
Like once they're because it has the look and the feel of a documentary, and it's got that kind of
all
authoritative
the found footage, all the
the authoritative voiceover, that I think you can just kind of like buy into it and not question it, because you're like, oh well, this is like on their equivalent of PBS that normally shows documentaries. I have no reason to question this, except and sometimes like reality is crazier than fiction.
And this is on the heels of like the Civil War documentary and stuff. And I'm sure like it was like Ken Burns fever.
They're using all the like Ken Burns tropes, all the like talking head interview stuff. All of it was like done to the nines.
Yeah.
And when they went over the top, it was like just a little over and still kept dry and straight as possible. And I think that where like it's a joke and it's good in that, I think where you run into danger is when you have people using like History Channel as an example of this, where we're doing like history's mysteries, we're doing like this real stuff, and then ancient aliens, but it's the same
delivery
tropes and the same delivery.
No, it's the same like toolbox of tricks, to actually not not say anything, but to say something.
And sometimes the mysteries of the pyramids are aliens. Aliens
well,
made the
listen,
pyramids.
you can't prove that they aren't.
Right.
It's true.
I'm not saying that they were built by aliens.
But did the Holocaust
maybe?
happen? I mean,
But is 9/11 real?
yeah. Can aliens melt steel beams?
Listen, 2 buildings cannot fall down.
Yeah, aliens. So yeah, I mean that's Forgotten Silver. So Kristen, had you seen this or heard of this before?
I had not. No.
What was your impression of it?
I thought it was interesting. I had just watched another documentary right before that, and going into it, I had no idea what I was going to see. And eventually, like, I think probably when he was showing us this woman's backyard and when he would stop and turn at like just the right moment and like have these, I don't know, right away I knew something felt a little off and I was like, let me Google this really quick before I get any further into what John just told me to watch.
Before I invest emotionally.
Right.
Also, going into it, you didn't know it was a mockumentary.
No, I had no idea
Yeah,
because I didn't look it up before he sent it to me.
Stuff. I was like, all right, I'm gonna let this play. Another, I'll let you hop back in. But was it Andy Kaufman and them took like one of their pranks? I think it was them. Took the footage from Griffith's Birth of a Nation where Lincoln is shot in the movie theater and told an audience of people
that it was real footage.
We just found this footage. It's very upsetting, but I think it's very historically important. And they showed that footage, and people were like weeping. And it's just like amazing that.
I think tying that into this documentary and the reason why New Zealanders probably thought it was real is because they want to have some icon, some like patriotic idol that they can say, oh well, no, this person from New Zealand did this first.
Mm-hmm.
And actually,
they built the airplane first, first color film.
Yeah. Now we have someone, and I feel like when you think of Lincoln's assassination, that's become like such a emotionally driven point in history.
Well,
where they're just
also,
like, oh yeah.
It ties into the Tolkien thing we were discussing a couple weeks or about a month ago, I guess, where you were saying, it was his goal to create a myth for England,
right?
Like the Germanic people had, and the Finns had, and that's kind of like what Peter Jackson was doing, and he eventually did Tolkien's movies.
Yeah, that's true too. If you were to show this to someone else, Kristen, would you tell them that it was a documentary?
I would not.
Would you trick people?
No,
would you
I would
trick
say,
your friends?
Oh, this is a great documentary. You should watch it. And if
it's
they would
all
be like,
real.
I don't think this is real, I'd be like, no, it is.
No, look it up.
Would you?
It's on the internet.
Would you go to the Kitty Hawk Museum in North Carolina and dispute them? Show the footage?
I don't know. I think I might be a little afraid of who I'd run into in North
hand
Carolina.
out some pamphlets.
I think they're
Kitty
a little
Hawk is
too
a lie.
patriotic.
Kitty Hawk is a lie. Take some pamphlets. Kitty Hawk is a lie.
Jules, you'd seen this before, yeah?
Yeah.
I think we all saw this together in Boston.
Yeah,
I think we had it at the video
from the video store.
Mm-hmm.
But this is, again, because we're big, like, Peter Jackson's trajectory has been pretty odd and different. I don't know if Kristen, have you seen any of his earlier films, like Frighteners or Dead Alive? Those are kind of like the Michael. Frighteners is sort of his bridge. That's his first U.S. one. That's like,
I would say Heavenly Creatures is as well. It's kind of a bridge.
I think that was his first. That was his
big
critical
acclaim
film.
But in terms of being like an American production, I think, Frighteners it's Michael J. Fox.
Yeah,
Michael J. We were like, oh, like.
That's funny you said Michael Keaton because Keaton was Alex Keaton, and he's Michael J. Fox. Yeah,
so Michael J. Fox is a ghost hunter. So it's sort of like, I don't know, like he's a psychic. He can see ghosts and he's hunting ghosts. And then there's this like reaper who can kill ghosts and is trying to kill
people.
Yeah,
and he's like, oh man, wow.
oh wow. So
Mallory,
it's not his best work.
It's fine though. It's a fine rewatch.
So Heavenly Creatures is really good. It's actually like a semi-biographical film. It's about these girls who committed like double homicide. It's like a murder couple, but I think they killed like
Wait, you
one
said
of the
semi-autobiographical?
semi-biographical.
Before he transitioned.
Yeah.
But Peter Jackson was two girls.
But it's a young Kate Winslet and another actress who are in like a sort of a early like exploratory friendship / lesbian relationship, and who have a very like weird
active imagination.
Yeah, it's kind of maybe the Slender Man documentary about those two girls who did the similar thing where they killed some people because of Slender Man. It's the same kind of like two people pushing each other and having their fantasies let them twist into something and do some terrible thing, which is in this case I think kill their parents.
And I think that was Winslet's like where she was the breakout
Yeah.
role basically.
What is this documentary about the Slender Man? Is that a real?
It's just, yeah, it's real.
That's a real thing that happened. These girls killed somebody because of the movie Slender Man, or because
no,
of?
because
Because
of
of
the
the urban legend.
The urban legend.
I guess
Or they
I
blame.
guess I don't really know anything about that. So.
Yeah, it's kind of silly. So I don't know what else to say. Well, so Forgotten. I guess here, let me justify that, and then I'll open it up. This is like, it's hard to find. Like the DVD was out of print for a while, and it still kind of is. Like I think it's on iTunes now, like I was saying, but it's expensive, and I don't think people would like, unless you're going digging deep on Peter Jackson, people might stop at Meet the Feebles or something, or Bad Taste, as like Meet the Feebles was his Muppets, but they're like do drugs and have sex and like
Avenue Q is.
Yeah,
That was, but more gross than Avenue
Really?
Q.
Yeah,
yeah, and crass, and all the puppets are grotesque looking. And
right.
So it's like way
So
more.
it's kind of like
That was in your video rental store.
yeah.
too?
So Meet the Feebles is actually really ahead of its time and brilliant, but it's like on screen they're the Muppets, but then
Yeah.
then they go to the back backstage, and one of them's
okay.
like a heroin addict, and the other one's like
And one of the and it's also a musical, and one of the numbers is one of the big numbers is sodomy. It's a part of me.
Sodomy, it's in the very heart of me. It's this like very effete fox, and I think it culminates where like, because there's like the boss of the meeples who's like who's cheating on his wife with another meeple, and so the wife, like a hippo woman, comes through with a shotgun and starts just like killing all the meeples, and they explode in like blood and feathers.
Needless to say, it was quite shocking that he was able to make Lord of the Rings to me. Like, because I knew him
Yeah.
from all
That
those
transition,
films.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he made Heavenly Creatures, which was like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
like that was like kind of a normal quote unquote movie. And then he made Frighteners, where it was kind of like Hollywood was like, well, I guess you know how to do this horror kind of stuff, you know. And then somehow, I guess maybe it's the New Zealand connection, I don't know, but
Yeah.
he somehow got Lord of the Rings, and that totally
Yeah.
changed.
I mean, his
career.
first film, Bad Taste, is like, it's a zombie alien movie,
Mhm.
and he plays a character who keeps falling and getting cracks on his head,
Like losing
like,
parts of his brain,
like
literally.
birds are eating brains out of his skull, and he'll like tape his head together and like go forward, and just keep going, like shove brains back in, and then go fight.
And the whole like kind of shtick of the movie is that the aliens are really soft, like they're like squishy,
Squishy.
so like they explode very easily. Essentially,
If you squeeze them.
you can just like bop a hammer on their head and it just caves in, and
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
yeah, that kind of thing. So it's just very gross
It's really disgusting, and it's
and pretty
fun
great.
though.
Yeah.
And Dead Alive is
way gross and
and
way
that's
disgusting.
like
also
So he
way
had a
ahead of its
theme
time.
going
But
on.
very it's like slapstick horror, kind of like
it's
Sam
like
Raimi. They had
very
very
Evil
similar
Dead, yeah.
similar kind of beginnings.
Yeah, and that one's, if you wanted to watch like a silly zombie horror movie that's not like, it's like a crazy zombie movie that's not,
Yeah,
it's like fun and funny.
It's so comedic that it's not really that gross.
I would say
No, it's gross, but it's not tense.
It's so
There's
it's so
yeah,
cartoonish
exactly.
that you're not that grossed
Like
out.
there's a
Yeah.
part when he pulls out a lawnmower and just spins around and just like
It's literally
mows
mowing
down
zombies.
zombies.
It's just blood sprays. But there's a great scene. I mean, we're totally off base here, but there's a great scene where
These are all lost and
These are
forgotten.
lost and
Peter
forgotten.
Jackson.
Yeah.
That's true.
Classic.
The
They
pre-Lord of the
basically-
Rings Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
I basically think that his whole that he should have just shoved his whole filmography onto the bonus features of Lord of the Rings. Like Forgotten Silver should have been on the bonus
should
features, and
just
everyone would have discovered this
Yeah,
New Zealand
it's true.
filmmaker.
Or you just
And nobody would have noticed. It would have just been another like hour on this movie.
yeah, it's like hour 16. It's like Tom Bombadil's watching Forgotten Silver. Oh, this is pretty good. So, well, the best scene in Dead Alive, it's a very like mama, like guy with mom issues thing.
yeah,
like
got a
his-
little bit of psycho.
Yeah,
aspect.
and so this guy's mother gets bitten by this rat creature
Zombie rat.
and is infected, and so is like slowly deteriorating into a monster zombie. and he takes care of her still, and he makes her this bowl of butterscotch pudding, and she's like eating it just like kind of monotonously, and her ear falls off
Into
the pudding, and she just like
it.
eats her own ear, and there's like a pearl, and she's like crunching on the pearl earring inside her own ear. It's so gross. And there's like like reddish pus like dripping into
in the butterscotch.
the butterscotch
See, all
pudding.
my favorite
Oh.
stuff is the baby stuff, because basically,
Oh,
then,
yeah.
then after a while, you have to lock the zombies up in the basement, and then his mom and this priest, right, like this zombie who turns into a zombie,
Yeah.
end up like doing the business, and
As
then making
zombies.
and then making a zombie baby, and then the zombie baby's like just crazy and out of control, but he tries to take care of it like a real baby, and
Yeah.
madness ensues.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy and fun.
Sounds out there.
We should be talking about that movie.
But
let's
the
just
i-
not talk about
The
Forgotten
idea is
Silver
like for
anymore.
Forgotten Silver to be, it just shows like how it was just really even keeled and just like a good, smart, dry take from
Mhm.
someone who's shown like they can do over the top and
Yeah.
like just to be tongue in
It's
cheek.
there's a sophistication to it. That,
Right.
That,
To
yeah.
shoot a 1 hour prank where they had to build a bunch of sets and all these props and
Yeah.
stuff. Like, it's pretty ambitious. They had to
Mhm.
do a lot of work. Like,
Yeah.
they had to
Yeah.
build this city. They had to
It's a
build all
really
these
expensive
props.
joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and they made all these fake pictures, all this fake film, which again like varies in how convincing it is, but it's convincing enough that
Right.
you wouldn't question it if you didn't have any suspicions. I guess.
And this is the movie that made me realize that all documentaries are fake.
Yeah.
Yes.
That I have not
This is
like
true. This is
trusted
true.
a single documentary ever since.
There is a lot of questionable material.
Mhm.
It's true.
It's just too easy to convince people with that medium.
Yeah. I don't know. Any closing thoughts or any additional thoughts on Forgotten Silver?
I mean, I was like having just watched my pick, which we'll get into next on a future episode. Which is a documentary. It had some eerie similarities.
Yes.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was just very like it was fun to see that after having because I hadn't seen Forgotten Silver in a long time. So, but we can talk about those parallels a bit more when we get into it.
We like I said, we had watched Forgotten Silver a long time ago, but I had forgotten about the device of the trunk and that he just found it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that really correlates to Julian's pick that's coming up in a couple
That
of weeks.
his neighbor called his mom and said, "Please come send him over. I found something."
He might be interested. I know he's into
films.
these things. Yes.
I found a hard drive. I know he does computers and video. He has a Nintendo.
I say this a lot in a lot of our reviews. It's because my colleagues here pick good picks. But my advice is, if you're into filmmaking, if you consider yourself a student of film, just watch this, or a documentarian, or somebody who wants to be a documentarian. Watch the film and just kind of like pick apart. It's just really fun to kind of look at it as a person who's studying it. What things do they say to make it seem convincing? When do they cross the line and it becomes? I just find that stuff to be
Right.
really fun,
And
and it makes rewatching a lot more interesting.
And this is like good parody where they've distilled it's like pastiche where they've distilled the reference material down and are using it to make the same point. And so it's nice to see like, oh, this is a class on how this works. Like these are all the pieces. If you're making this style of documentary, I mean, it's a kitchen sink documentary too. There's a bunch of different tropes in there.
Yeah, but that's the thing to study. What makes it feel like a documentary? What makes it feel like this kind of documentary?
It's like you really
versus
have to
this
know
kind?
the art form to
Yeah.
be able to.
Well, you
make a
don't. I mean,
parody
you
of
can enjoy it without knowing it, and that's kind of the point, right? Like this
Oh,
is
yeah,
a
no,
this
no,
is
the
a language,
makers have
right?
to
Right.
really know the art
exactly.
form.
Yeah.
And they also know a lot about that time period in filmmaking, and because so many of the references, like there's obvious like
Correlations.
yeah, Mackenzie's life and works like are all like you can find a real life parallel in another filmmaker from that time
Yeah.
period. Like W.D. Griffith's follow up film was this big epic that he slaved over to finish. Oh, that was a weird pun, I guess maybe. But yeah, sorry.
Gosh, I didn't even
Didn't
catch
mean
it.
to throw that in there.
Oh.
That he worked very hard on and was a total flop, and it totally crushed him because it's anyway. Yeah, I think, and it was like,
And he
was
never made another
I'm trying to
movie
remember what it was
again.
called. Was it called like I'm trying to remember what his epic film that?
What was the Ten Commandments, wasn't it?
No, but maybe it was inspired.
Wait,
by that.
which one? The big film before Birth of a Nation?
No, he made his follow up to Birth of a Nation. He made like a big epic.
I thought
that
Birth
was,
of a Nation was kind of a flop because people wouldn't play
No,
it.
Birth of a Nation was
it
a
did
hit.
too well.
Was a hit, unfortunately.
Got it.
But it was also very innovative.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the content was not so innovative.
Later film career.
Well, he kept making big epics. I think didn't.
But he's not the only. There was also like a Russian director who had a similar story. Like there's
also
Oh,
the French
Intolerance.
that's it.
the French
and
guy.
it
He made a series like Fall of Babylon, Crucifixion of Jesus, etc.
The French guy that Hugo's about, the movie Hugo.
Méliès?
Yeah.
Yeah, they use different film stock, and even because Salome is like shot over years, there's all different sort of styles in play there, like the shadow shots and the like, and different treatments of light. And so they're definitely playing with a few different styles within that to show that this guy was just innovating that much more.
I bet it was a really fun project to work on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can tell they kind of like in some of the shots, like on screen, like there's a little bit you can kind of feel the glee a little bit.
And a lot of some other little trivia, some of the actors that you see in it were then in like Lord of the Rings and stuff. So the woman who plays Salome, that actress
Is Liv Tyler.
No, she's the one who like marries. She's Rosie back in the
Oh, yeah,
she
cool,
marries
okay.
Samwise, yeah. So she's in at least the first and last movie. But yeah, that's that.
Even though it was just kind of a walk on, she was still on the screen for 45 minutes because it was a Lord of the Rings movie.
Well, also you have to watch the extended cut and the extended frame. Of the
Well, one of the other things that I found fascinating is I've seen this before. I've probably seen it. This probably counts as at least the third time that I've seen it. And so the cat's out of the bag. I know the joke, but it's still compelling to watch. And I think it goes beyond the analysis. It's almost kind of like, what are they going to do next, kind of thing.
Right.
Even it doesn't take you long before you do realize that it is a hoax or a joke or whatever you want to call it. But it still keeps you watching to the end. You don't know it. You don't just go like, okay, well, the joke's over with. I can't believe this is still going on.
And they also put enough of a narrative in there
that you
to
kind of
keep
care
things
about the
moving.
character,
and
or you're interested in him.
That's part of what gives it away. Everything's a little too convenient in some sense.
Yeah.
Like
But I think that's
everything flows a little too well.
Yeah, but I think that's them playing with that format in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like because they can make everything up, they can they can have it be
They can find
more
this
interesting.
strange lost footage
Right, and they have the perfect clip for everything. They have the perfect photo for everything. Like when they're talking about the love triangle, there's literally like a shot where it's like the three of them, and he's in the middle, and he looks upset. So that's why everything's just a little too on the nose, and that's part of what gives it away. But also just the fact that all the situations are just a little ridiculous, like just a little. They push it not over the edge, but just barely
straining
But-
credulity.
But I'm not a guy who is down on Peter Jackson. I mean, I wasn't super excited about the Hobbit movies by the third one, but I really do wish he would go back to having this kind of fun with movies. You know what I mean? Even Frighteners, which was his first foray into kind of bigger budget Hollywood stuff, was a lot more fun. And I think he made From Hell or To Drag Me to Hell or something after Lord of the Rings, right? After King Kong.
The Johnny Depp.
No, it was a horror
No,
film.
it was the one with the elevator.
No, this was the one. This was the one. I think it was called Drag Me to Hell or Drag You to Hell or something. And it was just
like
kind
an
of
exorcism movie.
Well, there was I
It
can't
was the
remember.
Witch Curse movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Drag Me to Hell.
and it was kind of a nice little throwback. It was like, okay, now he's back in the horror genre and he's having a little bit of fun. But the movie in the end was too tense. Didn't have that kind of.
No, he didn't do that.
There was what was the movie after King Kong that was a horror movie?
Crossing. No, that's a short. The Lovely Bones, which was
Oh,
kind of
no,
more
that-
heavenly.
Yeah, but that's not the one I'm
creatures-ish.
thinking of. Maybe
Lovely
maybe
Bones
I'm-
is really good.
It was really good, yeah.
You might have produced it or something.
Okay.
Let me see.
Unless it's like Del Toro.
Yeah,
the
maybe.
Same guy.
That was the first time they teamed up before they just knocked it out of the park with The Hobbit,
Yeah.
with the look of The Hobbit.
He also didn't produce it.
Wow, guess
got-
I was wrong about that.
Yeah, he's gone.
It was Drag Me to Hell, right?
I thought.
That was Sam Raimi.
Oh
Getting
yeah.
them mixed up.
That's what it is. I was getting
Fine.
Sam Raimi mixed up with because it was after Spider-Man that he made that. Yeah, my bad. Yeah,
But King Kong was pretty funny with Jack Black and all
Mhm.
the dinosaurs.
yeah. And that guy from the piano movie in World War II.
Yeah.
Okay.
Piano too.
Yeah,
I can't believe they've already remade
Adrian Brody.
King Kong.
Well, it's not a remake. It's kind of a.
Well, reboot, whatever.
Um,
Because I didn't realize his that wasn't that long ago, like 2010. But I guess with the Spider-Man movies, it's even more rapid. So
Kristen, any last thoughts? Would you watch this again?
I think I would, and I think this time, like Keith mentioned, I would probably watch it from the perspective of seeing really how they make the audience believe that this is a documentary and where they do go over the top and how they make those decisions and how small those little indications are. And I think I would like probably take in more this time and be able to see a little bit more.
Look
Trying
for
to
the
puzzle
Easter
it out.
eggs and look for the
Right.
Yeah.
I also I'm wondering what would watching it have been like if you didn't have Google? Because when it came out, there was
Right.
no Google,
Right.
and I wonder
I still think she would have figured it out.
I
You-
feel
you
like
would've had
had
something
John
cool.
had
Yeah.
the assignment not been from John, I would have just been like, "Oh yeah, I'll watch this. Okay,
I'm watching history. This is amazing. This is Al
this is my
Capone's
second
vaults.
documentary this week.
Yeah.
you're like, wait a
I
second.
feel educated."
I can't believe
John
John
recommended this. It's got to be fishy
I
somehow.
can't believe John found footage of Kennedy's assassination. It's true. I
There,
like
there
it.
really is footage of Kennedy's assassination,
Yeah,
Yeah, you
it
mean
is-
Lincoln.
and the moon landing.
yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah, sure.
Here, let me show you footage of this moon landing.
Yeah. Oh, look at this stuff. Yeah.
So fake.
So yeah, I would recommend it for rewatch after you've gone through that level too, so you can find weird stuff like the wooden tie and like
sure.
just odd things.
Wouldn't
Mhm.
Just like
I did
odd
notice
odd
that.
things.
But yeah, he was like one of the people that was very convincing. Because some of the people were less convincing. Like I thought the woman who played his ex-wife
Yeah.
or his second
Second.
wife or
Second
whatever
wife, yeah.
was like not very convincing. She seemed like an actress. And some of the like famous people that are interviewed, like you can tell they're kind of hamming it up.
Yeah, Sam Neill was
Mhm.
the strongest. Like Leonard Maltin and Harvey were
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
But,
yeah,
but
Leonard
like,
Maltin's such a ham in everything he's
but all the
in.
nerdy
It's so
experts,
hard.
all the
yeah.
nerdy expert guys were like,
Yeah, they were spot on.
yeah, so good.
It was almost like we were watching the Secret again.
Yeah, I
With
almost
their
wish
cast of-
I almost
cast
wish
of
that for some
characters.
of them he had asked them about something else and just edited whatever they said into the movie. You know what I mean? Like,
like Space Ghost, Coast to Coast used to do.
anyway.
But can we take a trip over to Keith's For Real corner for a second?
All right.
Sure.
All right. So Jules, was you guys were joking about the faking of the moon landing and stuff. Well, when I was a kid, my older cousins and everyone who was older would always watch stuff and be like, "Oh, that's so fake," watching movies and TV shows, So I thought it was like really cool to be that way. So when the Olympics in 1984 were on, I was convinced that gymnastics was all special effects and so fake. And I kind of argued with my Uncle Jamie, like, "Look at that. You can see the wires. It's so lame." And he's like, "No, that's real." And I'm like, "Come on. Stop. I'm 8. You can't trick me like
I
that."
bet there's still a grain of doubt in you, isn't there?
Well, but now it's the great doubt is they're all doped up. Those people couldn't really do
They're
that. They're all on
robots.
super drugs.
They're all robots.
So Forgotten Silver, only available on iTunes and sometimes on DVD if you can find it. It's not really in print right now.
It is $15 on iTunes. You can't rent it.
It's expensive, yeah.
But if you pay the $15, you can watch it whenever you want.
Yeah, you own it. And you can steal it if you want to go digging for it, but it's I don't know. If you're
Hey, that's up to you guys. You find it any way you
You
want.
know what?
But it is available
check
on
your,
iTunes.
check your
Unearth
local
it.
Blockbuster.
Go to
Check
video.
the one last blockbuster that's out there.
Go to the Ghost of Video Smith
Yeah.
in Brookline, Mass.
Check that trunk in your grandma's garage.
Yeah.
Maybe she has some old DVDs in there. You
Or
never
Or
know.
maybe some
Grandpa.
film, some film negatives.
No, that would be the freezer in grandma's garage.
Grandpa Goulash, no.
All right, that's my pick. Lost and Forgotten.
Good pick, Holt. We
Yeah.
love this movie.
Yeah.
I want to reiterate, it's a good, fun movie. Everyone should watch it.
and
it's
it's only 50 minutes.
It's an hour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not much of a,
Yeah.
other than
It
financially.
really
it's not
does
much
seem
of
like
a,
it should be on special features or something, like a Peter Jackson collection or something.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I think that's what he should do.
Peter Jackson, the early years.
Yeah. The best taste.
Proto Frodo.
I had the privilege of shooting Colin Mackenzie's footage, so it was my eye, pretending to be Colin Mackenzie, and it was quite fun, finding ways to make it feel authentic, I guess, even though it was complete bullshit.
Colin mechanized his camera with great ingenuity.
Such a question, there are many possible answers, such as hard work.
Feel I'm alone in this whole of existence. I know it takes time, but I'm losing my persistence. The distance is too far to fetch, so I sketch on pages and hope that some catch the thoughts of my inverted worded music. No trial and error, just emotion when I do this. Focus on each beat, more so than you wasting time in front of your television.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to another episode of the New to You Show. I was one of your hosts, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Yoho and on Instagram at board_ghost. And you can probably this week coming up find me. Oh no, I'm just coming back from Gen Con, I think, when this goes live. So
I hope it's fun.
I'll tell you about that next time, possibly. Yeah. Keith, what about you? Where can people find you?
You can find me at earthlingkeith.com.
All right, Jules, where can people
You
find
can
you?
find me on Twitter and Instagram at beautifuljules, Jules. And how about you, Kristen?
You can find me in New York City, or you can
Ju-
find me on Instagram at Kristen Sherm. That's KRISTN SHERM.
Whoa, TN like an app. Kristen.
Yeah.
Like, cool. I like it.
All right. So before we roll into what's coming up next week, who's got something new to them this week?
I got something new.
All right, Keith, go for it.
Planet Earth 2.
That's not new.
It's new to me.
We've known about it ever since we sent a probe to the other side of the sun. We've known about Earth 2.
In fact,
what
in the
keeps us
90s, there
in
was a great
balance.
show called Earth 2. No, Planet Earth 2. Had you guys seen it? I wasn't able to see it for some reason.
I haven't seen the whole thing.
It's,
but I have it. I own it.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Lucky. That's awesome. It's super good. Somebody at work is an Emmy person, and so they got a bunch of like for your consideration type discs, and so they just were giving these away, and I'm like, yoink. And so I've watched 5 out of the 7 or 8 episodes. Yeah, it's so good. So I think I did a whole discussion at some point about Planet Earth, and this one is every bit as engaging and awesome.
So,
It's every bit as fake as the original.
So in this one, it's like
sloths aren't real people. Come on.
Yeah, was it? But
It's
like
such a Muppet.
It's kind of like one of those like Oscar remember them montages, though, right? Where it's just like photo after photo
I
of the
will
last thing.
remember you.
Yeah,
and it's just like snow leopards.
I'm in love with the world, and then it's just like yeah.
Yep, all these species, dodo birds.
Right.
Yep.
And just like a year.
But there's a lot of manipulation in the edit room to create narratives that maybe weren't there, or maybe it's 4 different lizards that they edited together to make it seem like one lizard is
With
having
4
a crazy
heads.
adventure. So that's why I'm saying it's a little bit.
No. Well, I mean, all those, any documentary, they're looking for a narrative and they're going to make one.
Yeah,
Even
but I think you have a little more leeway when you're editing animals than when you're doing it with people. You would get into more hot water.
Is this Sir David Attenborough on this?
Yes.
As well?
I
Does he
will
sound
say
like this.
he sounds the same. But
Oh,
he's
so
up
he's like
he's up in a hot air balloon
the
at the
whole
beginning.
time.
Yeah.
So the whole time he's like,
The planet
"This
Earth,
is a whale."
that's seen from a mile
The
in the
microphone's still on
stratosphere.
the ground.
I will say there are a few things that bother me about it, in that whenever they put the Foley sounds on the animals, it drives me nuts. Like,
Oh, and boy, do they do it.
that
they
what
do
they-
it all.
Is
like
he still
the whole
doing the
thing.
sound?
Way
He
too
still does all the mouth effects for
Yeah,
them? David
yeah.
Foley still does all that?
Yeah, no,
It's actually just his breathing, but
yeah.
it's so strange.
no, but they even put like a sound when things blink. It's like, and it's just like, come on, you do that's first of all, no one recorded that. That's just done in some sound studio.
That's
No,
not real?
The animals
No.
wish no one was recording it. But it's like there's a guy who's holding the lizard real hard with like a microphone right up there.
Yeah, and it's
Right
actually
over
the,
its eye.
it's actually the eyelid scraping the microphone.
It's like sandy eye from being dehydrated.
And there's a director going, another take, please.
Again.
Take 50, lizard blink.
Get me a new lizard.
But they did up their game in terms of crazy cinematography.
Yeah,
and they
the
captured,
drone stuff is
They
like at a
captured
new level.
amazing footage. That's just
Yeah.
incredible.
Is it just like
Especially
you're
so
just have a
beautiful.
GoPro on a missile going right into a school, right from
Basically.
a drone? That's
Basically.
amazing.
Dude, you don't need a
But
GoPro.
it's
They
in
already
4K.
got,
You know,
Ooh,
like
4K
high definition.
4
It's not
kids
that like
get
it's
blown
not
up?
that like grainy stuff. It's like you see every detail.
You see scales, like
Wow.
on so many scales of so many iguanas. It's unbelievable.
Do you have 4K TV to enjoy it?
No. But you know what I'm saying.
No, but it helps.
Do you just zoom it up like 200% and
That's
watch
right,
it that
that's
way?
right.
Like you watch it 4 times, one for each quadrant of the screen.
Exactly.
Jules just has a big magnifying glass in front of his
That's right.
screen. It's every bit as moving as the first one. It's in my opinion, it's some of the best media ever made. It's just so amazing.
What do they
it's worth
cover?
watching.
Like what do they cover that sort of besides the cinematography that separates it from the first one?
They don't. I mean,
Is it
you
still
do-
the same planet?
Yes, it's the same planet. There's still a lot of water. I will say, in Planet Earth 2, there are a lot less fish, a lot less bugs.
Yeah, 'cause those are boring.
Yeah, so they must have gotten some like tweets or something. They're like, "Yo, cool it with all them bugs, dude."
Yeah, we know there are a lot of bugs. All right.
But one of the interesting things is maybe it's just my perception, but it seems like a lot fewer like predators catch prey in this one. It's just like way more often that the predators miss their like
Yeah, and
prey
they
thing.
just
The thing
get
gets
away.
away. Yeah.
Huh.
And again, that might just be me perceiving it that way, but
they do
for a
cut-
nature documentary, they sure do miss a
And
lot.
they cut back to like the mama lion coming home empty-handed to the kids
Yeah.
who are starving.
And
they're
that's
just,
what
like,
it says.
cry.
No, it goes.
Really?
No, you'll see the one walking off, and they'll have some like shot of it walking off, and it goes, "Have to come back another day."
Just like the 1%, if you were to
Nature's
tax them
harsh
too much.
out in the wild.
Imagine if you were to tax the 1% and they were not able to feed their families. That is what you're doing when an apex predator cannot get a prey. So having someone get out of jail for a low-level drug offense and then work at a McDonald's, that is like the antelope.
But I will say, so in Planet Earth 1, they have deserts, caves, fresh water, shallow seas, deep oceans. Like these are the different categories. In this one, though, they do have a cities one, which is neat because it's a bunch of animals in the city. I haven't watched that
Squirrels.
episode yet, but I'm sure there's some rad raccoon footage. That's what I'm hoping for.
Rats.
Give me
It's
some
like-
raccoons.
This whole disc of just like freaks of nature.
And you know there's going to be some funky monkeys getting some alcohol and getting drunk. You know
Oh,
that
nice.
footage is going to be in there. stealing booze
They've
from...
come into the fermented apple orchard. Apples are allowed to fall on the ground and ferment. The monkeys eat it. Then they eat the face of anyone who comes to. Looks like that child got away. These monkeys will have to try again another day. Is that what it's like?
Planet Earth 2.
Planet Earth 2. Catch it this fall.
But if you don't, you'll have to try again the following season.
Yeah, but it is. David Attenborough's getting older and older, so every
be the
time
last
I
one.
watch these, I'm just like, this could be the last one. And I really don't know. They're definitely not as powerful with somebody else. And there are, Oprah Winfrey narrated one. I think Jeremy Irons did. Well, Morgan Freeman did the Penguins thing. Actually, he might be able to pull it off. But there's such an authority with David Attenborough because some of the first nature documentaries that really got me into the genre were him in this series called The Trials of Life, and he's literally like crawling into giant termite mounds, and he's out in the field hunting. Today we're catching snakes, and he's out there doing it, So he there's an authority to when he speaks. It's pretty amazing.
There's actually like a cool app that he was involved with somehow where they was like, I can't remember the name of it, but it's essentially like tons and tons of his like nature clips and all like
that's
strung
cool.
together in a web, and you can like tap and watch them, and it's
Boy, I
neat.
got to get that.
Yeah, there's a
app.
lot of cool stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. All right, and where can people watch it? Where can they see Planet Earth?
I don't know. I hope it's on iTunes, but maybe it's not out on video yet. I just got it as a
Might be out in Blu-ray already. Who knows?
yeah.
Yeah, and I got it on iTunes.
If you
as
get
well.
it, I mean, if you have a connection with the British market, I'm sure it's out on
Right.
stuff from there.
They might have like dual released it. As
Yeah,
well.
maybe.
They've been doing more of that.
It's really something.
Cool.
It's
Yeah,
really good.
the app is called Attenborough Story of Life.
Oh, cool.
It's Attenborough.
yeah.
And it's really fun. It's really fun to watch.
Awesome. All right, Keith, good pick.
Thank you.
Speaking of picks, you're up next week.
Oh,
What
yeah.
should people look into?
Mermaid Avenue, the record by Billy Bragg and Wilco from I don't know when.
Volume 1 or
99.
Volume 2?
Volume 1.
99.
1999, and go listen to it. So you're all up and ready to talk about it next week.
All right, cool. To learn more about the people and stuff we talked about and blah, 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 go to nudioushow.com. You can also
and
follow
see
us.
something from months ago.
Yeah.
we
No, it's
haven't
all up to
updated
date.
it in a
I think
while.
I haven't done. No, it's all up to date.
NewToYouShow.com?
Well,
Yeah.
go check it out to see how out of
Yeah,
date it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
See if I'm wrong.
it's
Prove
the
me
latest.
wrong.
No, it's all up to date now.
Oh,
which is
good.
nice. NewDShow.com. Check out the latest. Learn about the peoples. That's where we can find everyone's contact info and, reach back out to us. We're also at NewDShow on Twitter. Yeah, that's kind of it. I think those are the two big ones. We don't really do Facebook, but whatever. I think I put
It's a
stuff up on there.
dying medium. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Zuckerberg for president. So yeah, that's that, gang.
If it's not new, maybe new.
Yeah,
Maybe it's new to you.
If it's not new, maybe it's new,
New to you! Explosion sound.
It's all about the music. This pitiful life is 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 all about the music.
Be with him together forever, without the limitation of time ever again. So the second coming of the Lord is not dead.